Welcome to The Conversation, a podcast about technology, instructional design, and the learning sciences. With me is Clara Bowler and Matthew Karinga. For this episode, we are focusing on the importance of staying connected to our peers not just in terms of classmates and students, but also faculty and their colleagues. We'll be talking to a faculty and two of his students. So let's get to know them first.
My name is Matthew Wright. I am a professor of physics at Adelphi University. I'm the chair of the physics department. I do research in atomic, molecular, and optical physics, but I've been spending a lot of time thinking about teaching with empathy, and I've been writing a lot of op-eds to that fact. Since the coronavirus has started, I've been blogging daily. And part of this is that Ravyn and another student have been taking a scientific communication class, and we've been talking about using social media to get the word out on science.
I'm Carissa Giuliano, and I am a physics major at Adelphi. I'm a junior, and I'm also in the STEP program, so I have my eye towards being a high school teacher after I graduate. And so I really have a passion and interest in both physics and education, and so tying it all together in research and physics club, recitation, things like that. So yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Ravyn. I'm a junior interdisciplinary studies major. I'm studying science and communications, like Professor Wright said, hopefully to do science writing in the future.
Let's start with how peers have been present in your life during these times, how helpful they are. So can you guys tell us more about how you are feeling peers are being helpful and a support for you during these times?
Wow, the 2020 it's just been an absolute incredible year. It's been a crazy ride. And I have a group of friends that I talk to that, there are professionals, there are professors in there, but there's, people from all walks of life that have been friends of mine for a really long time. There's a detective and a lawyer as part of this group as well. And we talk daily, and just being able to keep up with everybody's point of view about how the world is going and has been really powerful. And when I teach, I kind of think about that. I have students from all walks of life in my class, and how is each one of them individually trying to grasp with what's going on in 2020, right? And so one of the friends that I talk to frequently is a lawyer and has a completely different mindset than I have, and it's just great to talk to him because sometimes you just need to look at the world through a different lens.
I think from a student perspective, peers have been really, really important to helping get through all of this. Just for one instance, just the social aspect of things, seeing my friends from school and just on a video chat, actually being able to see them and talk with them. It's tremendously helpful. It lifts the spirits, and it helps us actually, if we're talking about work or something, it helps us get the work done more efficiently. And so it's just been really important. I couldn't go through this completely on my own without my classmates around me, because you bounce so many things off of them. And so it's just been really essential, I think.
One of the things that Carissa has been a part of that we've spent a lot of time in the physics department doing is creating a sense of community. And I've been amazed that a lot of that community has continued on even after the crisis has kind of, come and we can't really see each other anymore. So there are meetings that are happening and random Zoom meetings. And that is absolutely fantastic.
I agree with what Carissa was saying. Taking classes online has definitely been a different experience than being in the classroom, but still being able to reach out to peers and discuss what's happening in classes like you would if you were in the classroom has definitely helped. Like being able to still communicate with your professors and peers when you need to know what you're doing for a certain assignment, or just talking about how everything is going has been really helpful. So I'm thankful that we are able to use the technology to be able to have like the Zoom sessions and still communicate, because if we didn't, I don't know how classes would still be happening.
I have a question, one for the instructors and one for the students. For the instructors, I was curious about, are you doing anything different or in addition now that you weren't doing before we moved to remote learning? And then with the students as well, like, are you reaching out to your peers in different ways or new ways that you weren't doing before we all went online?
I have this blog, and it's basically my research group's website. And I've been posting things about about what great opportunities my students, have come across over, when they get a scholarship or, get into graduate school in some place. And every now and then I would put in some, teaching mumbo jumbo. But recently, I guess this is just, it boiled down to my scientific communication class. And I said, if I'm going to make Ravyn and the other student in the class, if I'm going to make them tweet 15 times a week and, have post on their blog all the time, I probably should be setting the example myself. So once that happened, I just started blogging every single day since around March 1st. And what has been absolutely surprising and amazing is that I just been blasting out the blog to people in the morning after I've written it. And people are just getting back to me every day and, recommending ideas, like shifting my focus. And so, maybe I had converged to something and they would come in and say something that I might have thought came from left field, but it was really critical to what I was interested in. And that would swing me back into the other way. And so it has been absolutely phenomenal. Professor Dana, she does the speech and communications.
Dana Battaglia, right?
Yeah. And every morning, I send something out, she gives me a comment, which is kind of says hey, I agree with you, I disagree with you, here's why, let's talk about it. And then we have a couple of emails back and forth. And holy cow, I am getting, I'm just getting so much out of these conversations. And every day I hear from Devin Thornburg, who is a professor in the education department. And it has really changed how I view the world, because I'm always getting this feedback to my ideas in real time.
For the students, do you guys read Matt's blog?
I do, and it's certainly fun. Always a fun and interesting read. And I don't know, it's just interesting to see all of your thoughts, Professor Wright, and yeah, and in a good way. And it's just something to do.
Yeah, I read it too. I get an email every day when you post. I don't know how I ended up subscribed to the blog, but I do read them pretty much every day, and they are pretty interesting.
And I am curious about the scientific communications class that you guys keep mentioning. So what is that class about? And what are you, Ravyn and Carissa, doing? The Twitter part of it? How has that become a platform these days? What are you discussing? What are you tweeting about?
So basically, it's all about how to communicate scientific topics to a general audience, pretty much. So a big part of it is the idea that social media plays a big part in communicating to the public. So me and the other student in the independent study, we started Twitter accounts, and the goal is that we communicate our ideas to a general audience through Twitter. And we also each started blogs that the goal is that we'll post what we write about what's going on in the world on it for people to read.
The social media part of the class is only a third of the class. So there's 3 credits. So the social media is only one of the credits. So most of the time the students are spending writing feature articles. And, we'll pick a topic. There's been a lot of coronavirus topics, as you can imagine. And so we'll pick a topic, and then the students will have to develop a feature article that you might find in a magazine, and they'll develop it, and then we do some peer review between the students, and then then the faculty, we discuss it and we provide some feedback. And one of the great things about it is that the students are so amazing that by the time it gets to our hands, it's pretty solid. We have a small comment here or there, but they're very good. I think at the end of last week I said we have to start publishing these. Yeah, so it's been a great opportunity to get to know the students and work with them, and have them work together and work with the faculty.
Yeah.
And
So one of the things I'm interested in as you guys have gone online with this and the students are working together, like for you, Matt, and for the students also, like what is the kind of informal communications? How do the students get in touch with each other outside of class or outside of like scheduled times? Have you guys been sharing documents and commenting and just like how is that working between you?
So for me, I'm in more group chats on GroupMe than ever before. And so that's a really big one of how we got in touch with each other, because we can, school related stuff, we can send documents and things, or we could just chat about non-school related stuff. And also Zoom and Google Hangout have been our main video chat options, because whereas before we would just see each other every day, there's no reason almost to video chat people from school when you see them every day, unless you want to chat them after school. But now it's actually a setup thing that we just want to see each other, and so that's been a change, and that's pretty much what I've been using more frequently now.
Also, Google Docs has been helpful. Like we were saying about the scientific in class, when we peer edit, it's usually we'll type on Google Doc and then share it with each other, and we're able to comment, and you can see all the changes that your peer makes. So that's been a useful tool. And also just emailing. I find myself emailing a lot more people now than I was when we were in a regular school setting. Just to keep in touch, and it's an easy way to ask questions and get feedback.
yeah, it's great to get emails from students. Oh, wow. Like for years, you wouldn't get any emails from students, and now they're emailing you like crazy. It's wonderful. But, I this is going to sound bizarre, but I do a lot of text messaging because, so now I had a big chunk of time where I was pretty sick. We weren't like going to go to the hospital or anything, but like I taught my classes and I like went in and passed out. Right. And so while that was happening, I really wasn't doing this, but kind of this week and definitely when classes started to go online and the crisis was starting to happen, I was doing this a lot, is I would just send an email out to the students whose phone numbers I didn't have, but I had a lot of the students' phone numbers in my phone anyways, from physics club or from a research group or from who knows why. And, I've just been texting people, hey, how's it going? And so many times I'll get a response back, which is like, fine, kind of, just like, okay. But every now and then, somebody will dive in. And so last night I asked the student how they were doing, and and then they had an emergency, and we just got into it and started chatting about it. So I meet students where they are, and students have their phones and they use text messaging.
So I know some faculty and maybe some students too feel like that's crossing a line. They don't want to mix their personal and professional lives too much, and they're hesitant to turn on video when they're home, or they don't want students to have their home numbers. What do you think about that? Is that like an individual thing, or do you think they're just wrong?
My father, he was a Marine. And so like my whole life, he has like raised me like I was a Marine. And, I've never gone into the Marines or any armed services, but I get that sense. And so, it's one of the reasons why I'm do physics, because physics is very much like, being in the Marines. I think it's like one of the sayings that I often will hear him say.
That's what everyone always says, physics, just like being in the Marines, right?
What I often will hear from Marines is that, once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine, right? And I hear that same exact expression from physicists. Like, it doesn't matter what field you go into when you're done. Once you're a physicist, you're always a physicist. So it's a long-winded way to get to the idea that I think that when you're trying to tackle something extraordinarily hard, right? Physics ain't easy. Like, a lot of those lines blur. And I think people are more receptive to, you're spending more time with students and they're spending more time with you. And so, I mean, so I think you kind of develop a personal friendship with the students. And so I think that kind of thing becomes appropriate. That's my take.
What about the students? You guys ever think like, hey, Professor Wright, stop texting me? I'll see you Tuesday at 4.
Matt, you're asking a lot of leading questions here. Do you read his blog? Do you like his texts?
Let me rephrase that. I do think most people appreciate it, and I kind of teach the same way. But I do, I am open to that with my students too, where maybe they don't want to hear from me all the time or have me nudging them.
I know I personally, I've never gotten the sense of like, no, don't text me and see if I'm like, okay. And as far as I know from my peers, I haven't gotten the sense from them that they think it's crossing anything. So, I mean, all good on my front and my friend's front, as far as I know.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a nice thing when a professor reaches out. I know in a lot of my classes, usually we start by just like seeing how everyone's doing. And I think it's a human thing to do rather than just pretending that nothing's happening in the world. So I don't think it's weird. I think it's a nice thing.
Have you noticed any kind of change in relationship during this time? Because it seems like then it becomes more pressing for us to reach out. For example, before I would never have reached my students the way I'm reaching them now and asking more personal questions. This conversation reminded me of that. For example, I'm including my son sometimes in my messages saying, you're going to be all right. And then he's 6. And then he's like, you're going to be all right. Be strong. So what about you all? So has your relationship with your students changed?
I think it's gotten worse in the following sense. I think that we really have in our world down in the basement of Blodgett in the physics department have spent a lot of time building community. And, it's one of their professors' doors are open, not always, but they are open. Students pop in, just ask questions. I try to encourage students to do this not during office hours. I think Carissa is the only person that actually uses my office hours. Nobody else actually uses them. They just come over whenever they want. And it's very casual and it's very friendly. And since we've gone online, I feel like it's significantly less personal. Conversations will start when you're in person just because of, you'll pick up on some interpersonal thing like the person looks sad or, looks like they're tired. And, you might say, hey, how you doing? Everything okay? And then they'll say, well, no, I'm, working on this test. I can't figure out this problem. And, you can help them or, talk about it. But you don't get that sense when you're online because people are only really going to reach out to you, when they're ready to ask for the help. So you don't get to intervene at an earlier spot. I mean, Carissa, you're a recitation instructor. Do you even speak with your students right now?
I don't. So recitations were canceled and now it's just tutoring. And so unless they sign up for me for tutoring, they don't get in touch with me for any reason. And I don't really have a need to get in touch with them. So I don't. And it's kind of sad. I miss them.
I've had a bit of an opposite experience from you, Matt, in that I think maybe in part because I teach mostly online courses anyway. When I have my in-person office hours, very few, almost never students would stop by, in part because they're not physically around. They also don't, if they need help, they would just email me or, we hop on a video chat. But more recently, I've been doing this thing with Zoom where I've got these kind of open office hours. They can just drop by. They don't need to make an appointment. And I've had 4 so far. The 4th one was yesterday. And in 3 out of 4 of them, students came by and it was great. Like students are interested in coming by. And I think that definitely has changed the way I would do it in the future, even when this is over, on having maybe these open office hours continue just to make myself more available.
It's great. I'm jealous. I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually set that up now. Start setting up a Zoom. See, I had office hours, but I was like, well, contact me and I'll send you the Zoom link. But I think for the future, I'll do what you just said. I'll start the Zoom and then they, if they want to come in, they can stop in.
How about you, Clara? Do you have any open office hours like that? People just drop in?
I don't, and I think that's a great idea too. Inspired by this, I have scheduled a few in the coming weeks. So let's see.
We have Slack set up. We've had it for about 4 years in the program. It's just group chat software. And I tell the students to send me a direct message anytime they feel like whenever, any time of day or night. And if I'm able, I'll write back. And if not, then don't feel bad about bugging me because it doesn't bother me. So I already have that kind of drop-in policy because I want to help them when they need help, not when like some forced time when they're not thinking about what they're working on and I'm not thinking about it. But I think that I've done some live chats too, like informal stuff since the coronavirus crisis. And it has been nice, I think, to reconnect that way. So I'll set up some more open office hours next week too and try to get a little bit of density. Like one of the problems with online learning and building community and peer support is if it's totally spread out, then people like never really connect. Like the same way with the discussion forum. Like if there's one response to a post a day, then it's not a very lively discussion. But if you can get like a denser conversation, then you get more of that interaction that you're looking for in online. So I think I'll do a couple hours next week, like 2 days for 2 hours and try to drive some people there where we can all talk to each other. And that's when you get kind of the unexpected conversations, which are hard to create in an online environment.
Both Carissa and Ravyn could, I imagine, talk at length about their experiences in communities. Ravyn is in the honors program at Adelphi, which has an absolutely fantastic community. And physics and the physics department, Carissa is the president of our physics club, who, and last year she was an officer in the club. And, they're a nationally winning physics club. They do all kinds of events together. They're good friends. Beyond that, that's all I really know. I'm the advisor, but I just kind of like let them do whatever they want to do. And it's a really great community. Going back to the text messaging thing, I was at a conference, maybe 5 years ago, and somebody was giving a talk on how to be an effective teacher. And they said, when I'm in my class, my very first day, I write down my cell phone number right on the board. And I say, you know what, if you want to call me, call me. It's no big deal. And he said, no one's ever called me, but they will write down the number and they're really happy. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do that. And no one will call me or text me or anything. And I put my number on the board, and like almost immediately people were calling and texting me. So mostly text. So that's been, I guess the students reach out to me versus me reaching out to them.
So for physics club, we would usually have our general meetings every other week or so. And the thing is that they're usually focused on doing a hands-on activity. So we'd be building holograms or building bridges or something like that. So it's a little bit hard to take those online, but we're still doing the things that, like, we're selling apparel, we're having elections, and so we're still doing the things that will allow us to still reach out to people and, still kind of generate some of that community sense a little bit. And actually, we are going to have somebody from Alumni Relations talk with us just about staying connected to Adelphi. And so that's another thing that will kind of bring people together. I think the most important part from physics club is that before we went online, we kind of had it established that we were all kind of just a group of friends. And so having that group beforehand, and as we transitioned online, we still have that group of people that are pretty close. We're, pretty much all in contact with each other. And so that it was kind of a pre-set up group that now bled into this new time that we have. And it's another group to stay in touch with. And so that's been really, really helpful. Again, just another community that we have there.
So like Professor Wright said, I'm part of the Honors College, and so that community has been helpful. Previously the dean would send weekly updates, but now it's more like every few days we get an update, just reminding us of different like activities that we can take part in that are happening online. Part of the honors program is every semester you're supposed to complete 3 cultural events. So something that they've done for us is create a Moodle page with the cultural events that we can attend. different videos of operas and shows that we can watch. And I think they actually made it possible for us to do it with our peers. So set it up where you can have a group of people watching it at the same time, and using it to still complete your cultural event with your peers and have something to do. So that's been nice. Also, they just have been keeping us really informed about everything that we have to do. Like registration had to happen remotely, so you couldn't meet with like an honors advisor. So emailing back and forth was helpful to find out the ways that you should go about registering. And so having the ability to contact those people has been really helpful. And also the Honors College has like an Instagram page where they post frequently about things happening. So just being still involved in what's going on with all the people who you would see usually in the Honors College has been really helpful to adjusting.
I have another question to you about being overwhelmed. I think all of us are feeling very overwhelmed right now. I think there's this feeling that it's more work with less time. Although there is this impression that we have more time now because we are at home, but I think everybody feels pressured that there is less time. So first, are you feeling this way? And second, how are your peers helping you through that, like to cope with this feeling of being overwhelmed?
So personally for me, I'm definitely overwhelmed with schoolwork. When I was on campus, I would go to my classes, come home and work pretty late into the night. And now the only difference is that I wake up and I go to classes right here, and I'm still just at my desk working late into the night. So there's a lot of work to be done. So peers can help with that because, if you have a Zoom call scheduled with your friends, then that'll help you take a break from your work, because whereas on campus, going class to class, you have to walk from class to class, you have to go down to, say, the physics department, and you kind of get social breaks in between, whereas at home by yourself, you don't really get that. And so that helps you, or rather just me, take a break. And also just if I'm stuck on work, reaching out to peers always helps me, saying, hey, did you do this problem? Like I'm doing something wrong, can you, like, what were your ideas? These are mine. And that's tremendously helpful too. But really just, again, the social aspect of it is really the most helpful, kind of breaking the monotony.
I agree with what Carissa was saying. I think adjusting to being online has been overwhelming at times. A lot of what I've just been trying to do is keeping track of dates that everything is due. Like really sticking to a schedule for myself has been helpful. I think it's comforting to know that everybody is going through the same thing. So it's okay to reach out to your peers and say that you're overwhelmed, because they're probably feeling the same thing. And it's comforting that, like, you can make jokes about what's going on with your peers and everybody's having the same experience. So there's always an outlet and always a resource for help. For me also, I'm adjusting from living not at home with my family to now being home all the time. And so just finding a space to do my work and being able to separate myself from the rest of my house to be